there, Booksy. Welcome back to my channel. We're here today to talk about my January 2020 TBR. And one of the things that I'm trying to do a little bit differently this year is that I'm trying to be a little bit more realistic in my goal setting. So instead of giving you an extensive list of books that I think that I could get to in a month, I'm going to be considering that since my number goal for the year is 120 books, and my average for the month is 10 books, I'm going to keep my TBR down to about 10 books. So today, I'm giving you a 10-book TBR with the understanding that if I finish these books, then it gives me some wiggle room where I can add more books as the month goes by. And even if during the month I feel like doing a little bit of mood reading where none of these books match the mood that I'm in, then at least I'll be able to add a few books without feeling like I am displacing my own goals by adding other books. So, long explanation to let you know that there are 10 books on my TBR, and we're going to talk a little bit about them in this video. Before I tell you about the books, however, I must remind you that I have a lot of reading challenges that I have my eyes set on attempting, including the Reading Women Challenge, the Read Harder Challenge by Book Riot, the Book Challenge by Erin, which is a Facebook challenge that goes on for 4 months, and I've identified a 10-book TBR for that challenge already, so I'll include a few of those books here. Also reading my Man Booker prize-winning list. I'm trying to read all of Toni Morrison's novels this year as part of a read-along hosted by Hannah, and I can't remember Hannah's booktube channel, but I think her name is Hannah Joyner. I'll link her down below in the description box. And other challenges that I'm doing, I'm also reading books by Nobel Prize winners, and if there's a reading challenge, I'm pretty much joining in. Oh, and I forgot, I'm trying to read more books from my shelves. So, with all of that being said, the TBRs that I put out will hopefully include books that will help me to accomplish at least a few prompts on each one of those challenges each month. So without further ado, here are the 10 books. Yep, that's baby. So without further ado, here are the 10 books that I want to read in January. Some of them are books that have already appeared in TBR lists last year. I'm trying to actually read the books that I said I wanted to read. So the first book that is on my TBR is the book that you guys chose for me. I've asked you in December, I gave you a short list of books that you think that I should read first in 2020, and most people voted for Life After Life by Kate Atkinson, either because you've already read it or you just wanted me to read it so you could hear how I found it. And I started off 2020 with reading this, but because it's such a big book and I start reading multiple books at a time, I finished other books even though this is the first one I started off with. So Life After Life is about a young girl who keeps dying and keeps being reborn because she has a passion to live. It's very interesting so far. And I also have the audiobook downloaded from the library, so at some point I will finish this month because I've already started it and it's really interesting. And this one meets a couple of challenges. Aside from you guys having chosen it, it meets one of the challenges in the Read Harder challenge, I think. This is what's called a doorstopper. It's a book that's over 500 pages and is written by a woman, published after 1950. I think that's the challenge that it meets in the Read Harder challenge. The next book is for Hannah's read along. This is the first book that we're starting off with. This is Toni Morrison's debut novel, The Bluest Eye. And I almost ordered a copy on Amazon, and then I came back to look at my shelves and I realized that I own a copy. I've read so many books from the library that sometimes I forget what I owned and what I read from other sources. So this is the book that I'm reading this month for that read along, and I've read it before. I have tabs in it. So I'm looking forward to rereading it and seeing how the things that speak to me in this book maybe differ from passages that I tabbed at first, and also to see how other people respond to those sections that I tabbed when we're having our discussion. So The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison is also on my TBR. I should also mention the book that I started and finished already, Olive Again by Elizabeth Strout. That's the first book that I finished in 2020 because even though I started with Life After Life, Olive Again was much shorter, so I finished that already. And Olive Again is the continuation of the story that we first read about in Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout. Olive Kitteridge is a snarky old woman living in Maine, and she, even though she seems to be kind of bristly, kind of one of those hedgehog characters where you don't want to get too close to her, even though she's probably really important in your life, Olive again continues her story, continues her character. Right now I could use Olive again to meet one of the Reading Women challenge prompts, which is to read a book about a woman who inspires you, because even though Olive Kitteridge is a fictional character, the fact that she is an older woman, she's in her 80s in this book, how she treats people, even though she seems to be a little off-putting, how real she is in her interactions. It's very inspiring to read about someone who's comfortable with themselves and comfortable with their lives, comfortable with their aging gracefully and not worrying so much about it, and just being able to use her age and experience to impact the world. I find her character very inspiring. So if I don't read another book later this year about a woman who inspires me, I could use that title. But for now, we could just call it a fun read, and the first book that I read in 2020. For that one, I downloaded an electronic version from the library. I also downloaded 2 other ebooks that I'm hoping to read this month, and that is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk and The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. Those are electronic downloads. I don't have copies to show you. I also reserved a copy of The Wives by Taryn Fisher from the library, and that is for a read-along that I'm participating in with Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany. I'm one of her patrons, and she hosts a book club every month, and that's the book club pick this month. So those are books that I'm getting from the library, whether in physical or electronic formats. I don't have them yet, but those 6 books are books that are written by female authors. So if I keep reading in this way, I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to meet my Reading Women challenge this year. But again, those are 4 books that I'm also getting from another resource that's not on my shelves. So not doing so great so far for the Read Your Shelves prompts, but we'll get back to that. So those are the first 6 books on my TBR. Other books that I want to read. I want to revisit my nonfiction November TBR, books that I didn't get to in November. I want to read them at some point, so I'm adding them to my TBR here. And the first one was Taste of Paradise by Wolfgang Schiffelbusch. This one is a social history of spices, stimulants, and intoxicants. I got this one from my husband's bookshelf. I picked it up. I wanted to read it in November. I didn't get to it, so I'm adding it back to my January TBR, as well as Christopher Columbus, The Four Voyages, which is a transcript of his logs from when he traveled in the New World. Didn't get to either of these in November, so I want to get to them at some point, so I'm adding them to my TBR here. And 2 other books that I started reading last year and didn't finish, so I'm going to continue reading them. Seville by David Story. This is a 1976 Man Booker Prize winner. I got about halfway. I was hoping to finish this in December. I didn't finish, so I'm adding it back to my TBR here. And talk about a doorstopper. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. No, I still haven't finished this book. It's still on my TBR. I promise. This is the month that I have to finish reading this book, because I can't talk about this book in another TBR video. I've been trying to read this since October. So October, November, December. This is month 4 with this book. I have to finish it this month because I can't bring it back in February. I just can't. So those are the 10 books that I'm hoping to get to in January. I'm keeping it simple, keeping the list short so that it increases the likelihood that I'll read all 10 of them. So that's my January TBR. Let me know in the comments down below what's on your reading list. What are the books that you are hoping to get to in January? If you're a booktuber and you've made a video, leave me a link down below so I can go watch it. And if not, just tell me maybe a book that you're interested or excited to read this month. I'd love to chat with you in the comments down below. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you want to see more. Let's talk down there. And until next time, until we come back for another bookish video, which will probably be very soon because I still have a lot of last year videos to come back and finish making. But I wanted to make this one and share it with you pretty soon before I read all the books. So we'll be back. But until next time, happy reading. Bye.